The thundering hooves of a dozen horses kicked up dust across the Montana prairie, as Delilah Armstrong watched her entire life vanish behind her. The year was 1887, and at 20 years old, she'd just been cast out from the only home she'd ever known, with nothing but the clothes on her back and her mother's silver locket clutched in her trembling hand. "Don't you dare come back, you disgraceful girl." Her father's voice carried on the wind, fading as the distance grew between them. The accusation still stung theft from the Armstrong family strongbox, a crime she hadn't committed. The settlement of White Rock was still visible on the horizon when Delilah finally stopped running. Her legs ached, her throat burned from dust and tears. Night would fall soon, and she had no shelter, no food, no hope. The rolling plains stretched endlessly, beautiful and terrifying in their vastness. As the sun began its descent, painting the sky in crimson and gold, Delilah spotted a small creek cutting through the prairie grass. She stumbled toward it, falling to her knees at its edge to drink from cupped hands. The water was cool and sweet against her parched throat. "Careful now, miss. Drink too fast and you'll make yourself sick." Delilah startled, nearly falling into the creek as she spun toward the voice. A man sat atop a dappled gray stallion, his face shadowed by a wide-brimmed hat. He dismounted in one fluid motion, his spurs jingling softly as his boots hit the ground. "Didn't mean to frighten you," he said, keeping his distance. "Samuel Orwell. Most folks call me Sam." He wasn't what Delilah expected of a frontier man, younger than she'd first thought, perhaps mid-20s, his face clean-shaven, his clothing dusty but well-kept. The revolver holstered at his hip gleamed with care in the fading light. "Are you in trouble, miss?" he asked, his voice gentle as he took in her disheveled appearance and tear-streaked face. "I'm fine," Delilah lied, rising to her feet. "Just passing through." Sam's eyebrow arched. "Passing through to where exactly? Nearest town besides White Rock is 40 miles west." Delilah swallowed hard. "I haven't decided yet." "Well, you won't get far tonight," Sam said, glancing at the darkening sky. "My ranch is about a mile north. I can offer you a meal and a safe place to sleep." She hesitated, weighing her options. Trust a stranger or face the wilderness alone? "I don't take charity," she said finally. Sam smiled, the expression transforming his serious face. "Good, because I don't offer it. You can earn your keep. My housekeeper could use an extra pair of hands." Before she could respond, a distant howl rose from the plains. "Wolves. Decision time," Sam said, extending his hand. "Those wolves won't wait for you to make up your mind." Delilah took his hand, allowing him to help her onto the horse. She settled behind him, keeping as much distance as the saddle would allow. "I'm Delilah," she said as they began to ride. "Delilah Armstrong, Armstrong," Sam's shoulders tensed. "From White Rock?" "Not anymore," she replied, her voice barely audible over the rhythmic hoofbeats. Sam didn't press further, guiding his horse through the gathering darkness with practiced ease. When they crested a small rise, Delilah saw the ranch spread before them, a substantial log house, a barn, and several outbuildings, all surrounded by a sturdy fence. Lanterns glowed in the windows, warm and inviting. "Welcome to Orwell Ranch," Sam said as they approached. "It's not much, but it's home." "It's beautiful," Delilah whispered, meaning it. After the day she'd endured, it looked like paradise. As they dismounted, a woman emerged from the house, gray-haired and round-faced, her expression curious. "Mrs. Winters, this is Delilah. She'll be staying with us for a while," Sam explained. The older woman's sharp eyes took in Delilah's appearance. "Well, you look half-starved, child. Come in and eat while I prepare the spare room." Delilah followed them into a kitchen warmed by a cast-iron stove. The smell of beef stew made her stomach clench painfully, reminding her she hadn't eaten since dawn. Over bowls of hearty stew and fresh bread, Delilah told her story, or most of it. She explained her father's accusation, her banishment, but left out the bitter family rivalries and her brother's gambling debts that she suspected were the true cause of the missing money. "Joseph Armstrong is a hard man," Sam said when she finished. "I've had dealings with him." Mrs. Winters clicked her tongue disapprovingly. Throwing your own daughter out with nothing, it's not Christian. It's done, Delilah said, staring into her empty bowl. I can't go back. You can stay here, Sam offered, work with Mrs. Winters, help around the ranch. At least until you decide what's next. Delilah looked up, searching his face for ulterior motives. She found none, only straightforward kindness. Why would you help me? Sam's expression darkened momentarily. Let's just say I know what it's like to start over with nothing. That night, lying in a clean bed in a small but comfortable room, Delilah stared at the ceiling, trying to make sense of the day's events. Morning had found her a daughter of one of the territory's most prominent families. Night found her a servant in a stranger's home. Yet somehow, despite everything, she felt a curious sense of peace. Dawn broke with the sound of a rooster's crow. Delilah dressed quickly in the simple calico dress Mrs. Winters had provided, her own dusty traveling outfit hanging freshly washed by the window. She made her way to the kitchen, finding Mrs. Winters already at work. "Good morning, child. Sleep well?" the older woman asked, sliding a cast-iron skillet onto the stove. "Better than I expected," Delilah admitted. "What can I help with?" The day passed in a flurry of activity. Delilah helped with breakfast, learned the laundry routine, assisted with bread making, and dusted the modest but well-kept main house. Through windows, she occasionally spotted Sam working with his ranch hands, 4 men who managed the cattle operation with practiced efficiency. "Does Mr. Orwell live here alone?" Delilah asked as she and Mrs. Winters prepared vegetables for dinner. "Just him and me since his father passed 3 years back," the housekeeper replied. "Built this place from nothing, the Orwells did, came west with dreams and determination, not much else." "No wife?" The question slipped out before Delilah could stop it. Mrs. Winters' eyes twinkled. "Not yet, though half the girls in 3 counties have tried. Sam's focused on making the ranch successful, says there'll be time for courting later." Delilah nodded, ignoring the inexplicable relief she felt at this information. As days turned to weeks, Delilah fell into the rhythm of ranch life. She learned to make soap, tend the vegetable garden, and even help with the chickens. The work was harder than anything she'd done as the daughter of a wealthy family, but there was satisfaction in it, a sense of genuine contribution. Sam remained polite but distant, often leaving before dawn and returning after dark, exhausted from long days on horseback. When their paths crossed, conversation was pleasant but brief. Still, Delilah found herself watching for him, listening for the sound of his spurs in the hallway. One evening, nearly a month after her arrival, Delilah was hanging laundry when a commotion at the front of the property caught her attention. A group of riders approached, and even from a distance, she recognized her father's distinctive black stallion. Fear clutched at her heart as she dropped the wet sheet and ran for the house. Mrs. Winters intercepted her at the door. "They're asking for you, child. Your father and some men." Before Delilah could respond, Sam strode into the kitchen, his expression grim. "Stay inside," he instructed, his hand resting on his holstered revolver. "Sam, please." Delilah grabbed his arm. "My father isn't a reasonable man when he's angry." "Which is exactly why you're staying here," Sam replied firmly. "Mrs. Winters, keep her inside." Delilah watched through the window as Sam walked out to meet the riders. Her father sat rigid in his saddle, flanked by her brother Daniel and 3 ranch hands. "Orwell," her father's voice carried clearly, "you're harboring my daughter." "Miss Armstrong is working here of her own free will," Sam replied calmly. "She's welcome to stay as long as she likes." Joseph Armstrong's face darkened. "That girl is a thief. She stole from her own family." "I find that hard to believe, sir." "Watch your tone, boy," Daniel Armstrong cut in. "You're speaking to my father." "I'm well aware who I'm speaking to," Sam replied, his posture relaxed but alert. "And I suggest you all turn around and head back to White Rock. Miss Armstrong isn't leaving unless she wants to." Joseph Armstrong's hand moved toward his gun. "You don't dictate terms to me, Orwell." In a flash, Sam's revolver cleared its holster. No one needs to get hurt here, but I won't let you force her to go anywhere." The tension stretched like a bowstring drawn too tight. Delilah couldn't bear it. Breaking free from Mrs. Winter's grasp, she burst through the door. "Stop," she cried, rushing to stand beside Sam. "Father, please, I didn't take your money." Her father's cold gaze fell on her. "You disgrace. Coming here wasn't enough. You had to spread your lies to strangers." "They're not lies," Delilah insisted, finding courage in Sam's steady presence beside her. "You know I would never steal from you." "Get on your horse, Delilah," her father commanded. "We're going home to settle this." Sam stepped slightly in front of her. "Like I said, sir." "She's not going anywhere she doesn't want to." For a long moment, no one moved. Then, surprisingly, Daniel spoke. "Father, perhaps we should return another time when tempers aren't so high." Joseph Armstrong glared at his son, then at Sam, and finally at Delilah. "You've made your choice, girl. Don't come crawling back when this cowboy tires of you." With that, he wheeled his horse around and rode off, his men following. Only Daniel lingered, meeting Delilah's eyes with an unreadable expression before he too turned and departed. When the dust had settled, Delilah realized she was trembling. Sam gently placed a hand on her shoulder. "Are you all right?" She nodded, not trusting her voice. "You stood your ground," he said softly. "That took courage." "Thank you," she managed, "for defending me." Something changed between them after that day. Sam began taking his evening meals at the house rather than with the ranch hands. He found reasons to be around when Delilah was working, offering help or simply conversation. They discovered shared interests: books, music, a love of open spaces. One evening, as summer gave way to early autumn, Sam invited Delilah to ride with him to check on a pregnant mare in the north pasture. The air was crisp, the sunset spectacular as they crested a hill overlooking the ranch. "It's breathtaking," Delilah said, gazing at the land spread before them, golden in the fading light. "Yes, it is," Sam replied, though when she turned, she found him looking at her, not the view. Heat rushed to her cheeks. "Sam, I've never met anyone like you, Delilah," he said quietly. "You came here with nothing, faced down your past with courage, and built something new without complaint or self-pity." "You gave me the chance," she reminded him. He shook his head. "I gave you shelter. You did the rest." He took a deep breath. "I find myself thinking about you all the time." Delilah's heart hammered in her chest. "I think about you too." Sam dismounted, then helped her down from her horse. Standing close, his hands lingering at her waist, he searched her face. "I don't want to rush you," he said. "You've been through so much." Delilah surprised herself by reaching up to touch his cheek. "You've helped me find strength I didn't know I had. I'm not as fragile as you think." The kiss, when it came, was gentle at first, then deepened with shared hunger. When they finally pulled apart, both were breathless. "I think I've been falling in love with you since the day I found you by that creek," Sam confessed. Delilah smiled. "I think I've been fighting it just as long." They returned to the ranch hand in hand, a new understanding between them. Mrs. Winters took one look at their faces and smiled knowingly, busying herself in the pantry to give them privacy. As autumn progressed, so did their relationship. Sam taught Delilah to ride properly, to shoot a rifle for protection, to read the weather in the clouds. She brought warmth and laughter to his serious nature, organization to his bachelor habits, and a newfound purpose to his days. The first snow came early that year, blanketing the ranch in white. Delilah stood on the porch, watching fat flakes drift from a pearl-gray sky when Sam joined her, wrapping a blanket around her shoulders. "Beautiful, isn't it?" he murmured, standing behind her, his arms encircling her waist. She agreed, leaning back against his chest. "Though I'm not looking forward to the cold." "I've been thinking about that," Sam said, turning her gently to face him. "About winter, about the future." Delilah looked up, her breath catching at the intensity in his eyes. "I love you, Delilah Armstrong," he said simply. "I want to face every winter with you, every spring, every season for the rest of our lives." From his pocket, he produced a small ring, a simple gold band with a modest diamond that caught the winter light. "It was my mother's," he explained. My father gave it to her when they decided to come west together to build something from nothing. He took her hand. Will you marry me, Delilah? Build a life with me? Tears welled in her eyes as she nodded. Yes, she whispered. Yes, I will. The kiss they shared was a promise, sealed beneath gently falling snow. They married 2 weeks later in the small church in Painted Rock, the nearest town. Mrs. Winters wept through the ceremony, and even the ranch hands dressed in their Sunday best to witness their boss's happiness. Delilah wore a cream-colored dress that Mrs. Winters helped her sew, with her mother's locket at her throat and wildflowers in her hair. You are the most beautiful bride I've ever seen, Sam whispered as they danced at their modest reception in the ranch house. Delilah laughed. How many brides have you seen, Samuel Orwell? Enough to know I got the best one, he replied, spinning her around the cleared furniture in the main room while a ranch hand played fiddle. Their first months as husband and wife were a period of adjustment and joy. Delilah took on the role of ranch mistress with determination, learning the business side of cattle ranching alongside the domestic duties. Sam consulted her on decisions, valued her opinions, treated her as a true partner. My father would never believe this life, Delilah remarked one evening as they reviewed the ranch accounts together. A woman having a say in business matters. Your father's loss is my gain, Sam replied, kissing her hand. You have a good head for numbers. Winter passed in a cocoon of domestic contentment. They spent evenings reading aloud by the fire, planning improvements for the ranch, and loving each other with increasing passion and tenderness. When spring arrived, bringing new calves and green grass, Delilah had news of her own. Sam, she said one morning as they watched the sunrise from their bedroom window, I think we'll need to prepare a nursery by autumn. His expression when he understood was everything she'd hoped for: wonder, joy, and love so intense it brought tears to her eyes. A baby. He whispered, placing his hand gently on her still flat stomach. Our baby, she nodded, covering his hand with hers. Our baby. He lifted her into his arms, spinning her around until they were both laughing. You've made me the happiest man in the Montana Territory, he declared, setting her down carefully as though she were made of glass. I'm pregnant, not breakable, she teased. You're carrying the future of Orwell Ranch, he replied solemnly, then broke into another wide smile. Mrs. Winters is going to be beside herself. The news spread quickly through the ranch, with Mrs. Winters indeed fussing over Delilah's diet and rest, and the ranch hands offering awkward but sincere congratulations. Sam became even more protective, though he tried to hide it when Delilah gave him exasperated looks. As summer approached, the ranch flourished. A new contract with the railroad meant expanded operations, and Sam hired additional hands to manage the growing herd. Delilah's pregnancy progressed without complications, her body changing as new life grew within. One warm June day, an unexpected visitor arrived. Delilah was in the garden when she heard hoofbeats approaching. Looking up, she was stunned to see her brother Daniel riding alone toward the house. Sam was checking fence lines miles away. Mrs. Winters had gone to town for supplies. Delilah straightened, one hand automatically going to her visibly pregnant belly, the other reaching for the small revolver Sam had insisted she keep nearby. Daniel reined in his horse, his eyes widening at the sight of her condition. Delilah, he said, dismounting slowly, you're with child. What are you doing here, Daniel? She asked warily, not lowering the gun. He raised his hands slightly. I come in peace, sister, may we talk? After a moment's consideration, she nodded toward the porch. You can sit there, say what you came to say. Once settled in the rocking chairs, an uncomfortable silence stretched between them. Finally, Daniel spoke. I found out who took the money, he said quietly, Delilah's breath caught. Who? Me, he admitted, not meeting her eyes. Well, not directly, I had gambling debts. Reynolds, that new ranch hand father hired, he took the money to cover what I owed. When father discovered the theft, Reynolds blamed you. And you said nothing, Delilah said, her voice flat. Daniel flinched. I was a coward. By the time I learned the truth, you were gone. Father had forbidden your name to be spoken. "Why come now?" she demanded. "Reynolds got drunk in town last week, started bragging about how he'd gotten away with it. Father overheard." Daniel finally looked at her. "He fired Reynolds, had him run out of the territory, then he sent me to find you to bring you home." Delilah laughed without humor. "Home? I have a home, Daniel, here with my husband preparing for our child." "Father regrets what happened," Daniel insisted. "He wants to make amends." "It's too late for that," Delilah replied. "He cast me out with nothing, called me a disgrace. Threatened the man who took me in when I had nowhere else to go." Daniel's shoulders sagged. "I understand, but will you at least consider letting him meet his grandchild someday, when you're ready?" Delilah's hand moved protectively over her belly. "I don't know, Daniel, that's not just my decision now." "Then I'll respect whatever you and your husband decide," he said, rising. "I'm truly sorry, Delilah, for everything." As he mounted his horse, Delilah called out, "Tell Father I'm happy." "Truly happy. Whatever else happened, I found where I belong." Daniel nodded once, then rode away. Delilah remained on the porch until Sam returned hours later, concern etched on his face when Mrs. Winters told him about their visitor. That night, Delilah told Sam everything Daniel had revealed. They lay in bed, her head on his chest, his hand gently stroking her hair as they discussed whether to allow Joseph Armstrong back into their lives. "It's your decision," Sam said finally. "But remember that forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting, and it doesn't require reconciliation. You can forgive your father for your own peace without letting him back into your life." "What would you do?" she asked. Sam considered this. "I'd protect my family first, but I believe people can change. Perhaps with time and clear boundaries we could allow a relationship to develop. For our child's sake, if nothing else." "You're a better person than I am," Delilah murmured. "No," he disagreed. "Just different. Your caution comes from love for our baby, for our family." Delilah eventually drifted to sleep in her husband's arms, the decision postponed for another day. As summer turned to fall, Delilah's time grew near. The nursery was prepared, a beautiful cradle crafted by Sam's own hands sitting beside their bed for the baby's first weeks. The ranch had its best year yet, with enough profit to consider expansion in the spring. On a crisp October morning, Delilah's labor began. Sam sent a ranch hand galloping for the doctor in Painted Rock, while Mrs. Winters prepared hot water and clean linens. For 14 hours, Delilah worked to bring their child into the world, Sam refusing to leave her side despite Mrs. Winters' protests that it wasn't proper. "My place is with my wife," he said firmly, holding Delilah's hand through each contraction. As dawn broke the next day, their daughter was born small but strong, with a healthy cry and Sam's dark hair. They named her Elizabeth Hope Orwell, and as Delilah held her newborn child while Sam looked on with tears in his eyes, she felt her heart expand with a love she hadn't known was possible. "She's perfect," Sam whispered, gently touching his daughter's tiny hand. "Just like her mother." In the weeks that followed, they settled into life as parents. Sam proved to be a devoted father, often carrying Elizabeth in a sling across his chest as he handled ranch business near the house. Delilah recovered quickly, finding a new rhythm to her days that revolved around her daughter's needs. When Elizabeth was a month old, another unexpected visitor arrived, Joseph Armstrong himself, alone and unarmed. Sam met him in the yard, Elizabeth sleeping against his chest. From the window, Delilah watched their conversation, too far to hear the words but close enough to see her father's face soften as he looked at his granddaughter. After several minutes, Sam turned toward the house, a question in his expression. Delilah hesitated, then nodded once. Sam led her father to the porch where Delilah met them, standing tall in the doorway. "Delilah," her father said, his voice rougher than she remembered, "you look well." "I am well," she replied. "This is my home now." Joseph Armstrong nodded, his eyes falling to the baby in Sam's arms. "Daniel told me about the child." An uncomfortable silence stretched between them until Joseph spoke again. "I was wrong about the money, about you. I acted in anger without seeking the truth." The words seemed to cost him, but he continued. I'm not asking for forgiveness. Just the chance to know my granddaughter, on your terms. Delilah studied the man before her, older than she remembered, diminished somehow. You banished me with nothing, she said, the old pain surfacing. I know, he acknowledged. It was unforgivable. Sam stepped forward, carefully transferring Elizabeth to Delilah's arms. Why don't we talk inside? It's getting cold out here. The conversation was stilted at first, years of hurt not easily overcome. But when Joseph held his granddaughter for the first time, his weathered hands gentle against her blanket, something shifted. She has your mother's eyes, he said softly to Delilah. She would have adored her. It wasn't forgiveness, not yet, but it was a beginning. As winter settled over the ranch, bringing quiet days and long nights, Delilah reflected on the journey that had brought her here. From the daughter of a wealthy rancher to an outcast, from a desperate young woman to a wife, mother, and partner in a thriving business, her life had transformed completely in less than 2 years. One evening, as she nursed Elizabeth by the fire while Sam read aloud from a new novel, she was struck by a profound sense of contentment. Here in this home they'd built together, with their daughter and their future spread before them, she had found something her father's wealth could never have provided: true belonging. Sam looked up from his book, catching her gaze. What are you thinking about, love? You're smiling. Delilah glanced down at Elizabeth, now asleep at her breast, then back to her husband. I was thinking about the day we met, how terrified I was, how lost. He set the book aside, moving to sit beside her on the sofa. You never seemed afraid to me, just determined. I was both, she admitted. But do you know what I remember most clearly? What you said to me that first night after my father cast me out. Sam's brow furrowed. I'm not sure I recall. You said she was banished with nothing, and then you looked at me and said, now you have everything with me. Delilah smiled at his surprised expression. You don't remember? I remember thinking it, he said slowly. I didn't realize I'd spoken aloud. You did, she confirmed, and you were right. I came here with nothing, but now I have everything that matters: love, family, purpose, home. She leaned against him, their daughter nestled between them. Everything I never knew I needed until I found you. Sam pressed a kiss to her temple. We built this together, Delilah, this life, this family, and we'll keep building it day by day. Outside, snow began to fall, coating the ranch in pristine white. Inside, the fire crackled, casting golden light over the family of 3. From banishment to belonging, from emptiness to abundance, Delilah's journey had led her here, to this moment of perfect contentment, to the everything she'd found in the arms of a kind-hearted cowboy who'd once offered shelter to a stranger and found his future in the process.